It's a puller and a gatherer. It doesn't shrink and it doesn't stretch. What we have to do is establish that this is our top. I almost did it backwards because I want the 3/4 inch leg on the bottom, right? What is wrong with me using this Sharpie? I couldn't find a black one that was sharp. Anyway, stupid. Hey, we got a challenge. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. It really helps the channel. Thanks for hitting the like button. And thanks for passing on to us what you guys want to see on this channel. So we're back body working. This rust up in here, we've scaled it and I've kind of hacked at it a little bit. What I'm trying to do is figure out how to dissect it without completely dissecting it. And what I mean by that is, if you look at this spot right here, it's all chewed up and rusty there, right in the brow, but the skin itself is in good shape, and I used my shrinker stretcher and my bending brake to do a little experiment and make a little piece right there. We'll walk you through all of that stuff, but basically what I did was create this and then shrunk it around to do the curvature. I learned some stuff doing that, which I'll pass on to you also. But what I really learned is that this is going to be kind of a cranky job. And it's a lot of focused work. We've got rusty panels, spot welds that are hard to see. It comes down to drilling out spot welds, removing metal and then putting good metal back in. Here's the good news. The good news is that the backing metal is in nice shape here. You can see that piece right there. Camera guy, get a nice close of that. That's in pretty good shape. I've just kind of ground it off again. I hadn't done any metal treatment on it or anything like that. And that's our base. That's what we're going to weld to. And this backing right here, you can see it underneath there. That's in pretty good shape too. And I can run my fingertips on the back side of it and it's not rusted through anywhere. So we are actually in a pretty good position to have a solid surface to put our new metal on. And I'm not going to cut all the bad metal out because I want to keep this kind of where it belongs. I'm going to do pieces at a time and then work my way across. And it's literally 2 repairs. We're going to do the top repair and then we're going to do the bottom repair. This is going to be a quicker win, so we're going to start there. Winning, winning, winning. So how do we start there? We know we need to cut this out. Cutting metal is a big dumb animal. Not particularly difficult. I did learn that this piece, it's kind of a 3-piece. There's the back, then there's another reinforcement, and then there's the skin. Now, I thought it wasn't that complex, but it is. So what we're going to do, all we're going to do is cut that first metal piece out and try and preserve and not damage the backside, kind of like I did right there. Anyway, it starts with exposing as many of the spot welds as we can, and then coming back in, drilling the spot welds out, and doing the tap, 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 panel separator knife, and all that type of stuff. So here's the weapons that we're going to use. I've got my handy dandy Matco spot weld driller, as well as a manual one with the double-sided blades. Using that, obviously appropriate PPE. I've got a cutter offer, angle grinder with a carbide bit, body hammers, of course. We've got our panel destroyer, and this thing, I've been wanting to try this thing. It's brand new. Chris Lee made me buy it, so I got to use it, see if it works. Panel separator, my band file, and a good 4.5-inch grinder that also serves as a flap wheeler. And let's get to town. We've got some cutting to do. So a lot of this is terribly degraded, like this right here. We're not going to have to do a lot of dissecting to get down to the backing right there. But here, different story, you know. So what I'm gonna do is, like I did here, I'm gonna cut along the top of this brow, and then kind of at the base of it, and then we just start scraping. There's no pretty way to do this. It's not a complicated thing. Holy God. So what we're going to do first is drill a pilot hole. Hang on. All right, so I'm not going all the way through just so I can preserve as much of that good backing metal as possible. Need to go a little more on that one. How about that? Stop there. All right, not bad. You can actually, I can just rub the surface rust off of there. We can see good integrity of the metal. Do this real quick. All right, I will just continue to work my way that way. Go get a cup of coffee, get a biscuit, something like that. We'll meet you at the other side. well, it's just spot welds with a little bit of surface rust. What I have to be aware of is this right here. I don't want that to scoop down and get all goofy, so I've got my spacing established on the other side, which is 3/4 of an inch from the top to in about there. So I've just got to be careful not to let that droop too much. Keep my spacing there, keep the continuity, and it'll be fine. So I'm more grinding, surprise, surprise, and then we'll start talking about fab tools. I guess we're done. So there's a couple of things that I've already established while you weren't looking, and one of them is kind of the height that this goes. So it's good metal all the way across, and we know we're kind of floating right there. But I've already established my sizing for this piece, and I kind of made a small section here. The way I arrived at this was I just measured it, and what I measured was 3/4 of an inch that way, and I measured 3/4 of an inch that way. But that got me this piece. I cut it and bended it and took it over to the metal brake and split the difference, and what it gave me was something that was too tall. So I trimmed it down here to 1/2 inch. So that is the dimension that we are going to have when we make our other pieces here. This was a fun experiment, and we're going to make a 3/4 of an inch on the bottom leg and 1/2 inch to the top, and that'll give me my spacing to hold this up at the right level all the way across. So a couple of ways to go about doing that. We can make homemade tools and brakes and angle iron clamped to the workbench and all that type of stuff. But I've got a little cheese ball 36-inch brake that I've had for many, many years, and we're going to use that, and it starts with some simple layout. We're going to go ahead and make our piece that goes across there. Over here. So this is a piece of 20-gauge sheet metal. I actually cleaned it up because it had a little bit of surface rust, but I measured the top of the windshield channel. I need about 40 inches to go from the piece that I've already made in the corner all the way across. And this is 36 inches exactly. So we don't really have enough to finish, but that's okay because we can split it up. So what we're going to do, just pretty simple layout. We've got our 1/2 inch leg. That's going to be my middle position. And then we've got 3/4 on the bottom leg right there. So my cut line is down here. I'm just going to establish that a couple of different places. So what I'm doing is lining up my cut marks, and really only have to line up one because we've got this straight edge brace at the one side. But I do check my reference marks just to make sure. And we're right on the money. And we have our piece. We've already got our 1/2 inch reference marks. So now we go to the other piece of equipment. It's that away. All right, so obviously you put your piece in here, you pinch it down, and then you bend up to whatever angle that you want. And second guessing myself on the gold Sharpie mark here because it's a little hard to read, but we're just going to line up our 1/2 inch marks. Now, I'm splitting the difference. I'm bringing the blade down, or the top pinch clamp down, just ahead of that 1/2 inch mark, because what happens is that the actual angle takes up a little bit of room from each side. It kind of squishes it. So I want to default to the top side. So there's my 1/2 inch there. And this is kind of giving me flashbacks to that time that I got the summer off. I've got my thumb pinched in a bending brake, the roofing company I worked for, but I got the summer off with my arm in a cast. Anyway, it was fun. So now we're going to go straight up. I want a 90-degree bend. Now, good expensive sheet metal brakes, I'm not going to bash brute. Okay, it's just it's an economy thing. It was a couple $100 years and years ago. I need a really good pan and box brake with the removable fingers, and I'd like to get one of those magnetic electrical ones, but anyway, we're just moving this up, right? And I like to take it in kind of sections so I can read it. So that's about a 45. When I have these arms vertical, that should be 90-degree. That should get us close. One of the things I don't like very much about this brake is that it kind of scoops. It's a soft bend in there, but that's going to get us started. So now over here, obviously, we've got to shape it. And we've got to shape it 2 different ways, because if camera guy can look about straight up there, you'll realize that this is not straight. So it's a compound shape that we have to create. Not only do we have to curve it around here, but we've got to create the arc in it right there. The way we do that is with this guy. This is considered a shrinker stretcher. It even says it on here. Stretcher. And on the other one, it says shrinker. When in truth, it's a puller and a gatherer. It doesn't shrink and it doesn't stretch. It clamps and pulls, and it clamps and pinches and gathers. So what we have to do is establish that this is our top. I almost did it backwards because I want the 3/4 inch leg on the bottom, right? What is wrong with me using this Sharpie? I couldn't find a black one that was sharp. Anyway, stupid. So we're going to do the curve around the windshield first, and this is by stretching, which is this guy. So this is really simple. We've got the foot pedal operator like I've got here, which is kind of a nice convenience. So I'm just going to go about every 6 inches, give it a little tap. It doesn't take long to make a lot of moves. You see that? Take a look at that. That's already a pretty dang pronounced curve. I'm just giving it a tap, and you can see the witness marks here. And the clamp where the jaws grab onto it, and it pulls it apart. So yeah, you're probably aware of what a shrinker stretcher is, and if you're not, well, now you are. These are relatively inexpensive tools for the amount of benefit that they can give you. And I kind of went nuts right there. I kind of went over. I overstepped. So you can see right there, I've kind of pulled it a little bit too far when I eyeball it like that. So I want to correct that. So now I can bring it into the shrinker I can put it in on this side and give it a little love tap, bam, and it kind of brings it back around. So now, since that looks pretty dang good, I'm going to test it against a car. Remember, we're doing one plane at a time. So what I'm going to do now is establish where my center line is, because I'm going to work from that edge over there. All right, so that should be fine. I'm going to just go like that, bam, bam, and that's going to be what we're working off of, because that's going to bring me right to there. All right. So honestly, this looks pretty good from there right about to there. So I'm not going to touch that. So I've got this to work and that to work. So I'm going to work one side at a time. And this is progressive here. The way this is designed, it's not an arc. It's not a pie plate. It's flat in the middle and then it angles around at a more aggressive rate, which is part of the reason that I'm making it in 3 pieces. From here, we're going to stretch that around a little bit, more from about there. All right, more stretching. It looks like I did way too much, and I did way too much. All right, we're going to correct that. All right, that's looking a little better. Still goofalicious right here. All right, so that's coming around, right? That's not horrible. The saving grace is going to be I've preserved this roof line here. So that's going to dictate my shape. And even if my channel is a little inconsistent, I can work off of there. All right, so we're looking pretty okay right there. I'm pretty okay right up to here. Overdid again. But you see how this goes, right? The fact that it's forgiving, and look at there, you can even see that. It's just, I just went nuts, because 20 gauge is very easy to move around. So you just work your piece against the shrinker stretcher, against the angle that you're trying to work until it fits. So that doesn't suck. Got to bring it around a little bit more here. All right, so we're super close. I've got to bring this back around, straighten it out a little bit on this side. And then I've got about a 4-inch piece to make over here. So I'll meet you on the other side. I'm going to perfect this, and then we'll talk about our other plane. All right, so this is flush here in the middle, but look how it edges up. It raises up on that end. We've got about a 3/8 gap, and on this end, we've also got about a 3/8 gap. So it's pretty dang good, except for the very ends. So what we have to do now is work on this top edge and bring them down. Not much. And as I've reminded myself, it doesn't take much effort. So we're going to stretch this down on this side. We'll do one side at a time again. I think I've already done too much. So let's check the middle. No, actually that sits about where it needs to be. That's pretty dang spanky right there. Yeah. So now we'll do the other side. Yep, I overdid on that end. This side looks good. But you see where it wows up right in there now. So I've got to correct what I did right there and pinch that back in. So I think I can work with that, but I've got to bend it flatter. Go to the floor anvil. All right, so I'm going to start clamping it and see where I need to correct it. All right, so that's pretty spanky. That works. It wows down a little bit there, but hey, it's metal. I can bash it up, and that'll be fine. So our basic fit is pretty good. It wows a little bit right there. But that's got us our channel on the top all the way around to this side. Now I should have gloves on. I know. When I run my hand across this, feels pretty straight. And we just got a little bit, one more piece to make right there. All right, so our last piece, right here. So I'm just going to clamp that guy. And this right here, well, yeah, I've got to trim a chunk out of there. But we have got piecage. So that's roughed out. Obviously, I'm not just going to weld that. You guys saw me bare metal underneath that. And honestly, when I'm looking at this, I want to correct that a little bit. That needs to go inward just a little bit. So we're gonna reshape, not reshape, but we're gonna just kind of push that flange. That's where it needs to sit. We just got to push that inside. So anyway, a little bit more work to do, but I'm going to unclamp all of that, and we're going to start doing the junk job on the bottom here, which is essentially the same repair, except in places like this right here, yeah, I've got to make another piece of metal here. So another complex shape, because it goes, and it does it all the way across. But what I'm going to do is build this first, and then build this against it. Does that make sense? Yeah. And I'll use this as a reference the whole time. You want to work sheet metal? Yeah. Yeah. It's fun. So the method behind the madness of just letting the camera go on fast motion was, it allowed me a couple of things. It allowed me to not only do this in sections and keep the shape of that lower channel, but it also allowed me to figure out how to do it by the time I got over here to work and show you guys. So here's how I found out the best thing. I just went this from the middle channel here, and then I did my outside piece. So basically what we're going to do right here is a two-piece repair. We're going to do, I'm going to make a cut right there, and we're going to do, well, we just got to shrink and stretch and measure for this piece, and then we're going to do another piece. Let me see if I can do this. Let's be trying to be like all artsy. About there, come up here, and although that looks nice, it looks like it's rust-free. Right here, it's not. And this is a typical backside piece. Well, yeah, it's a little more crusty on the front, but look at that backside rust. I don't really trust that. Now, up under this business in here, I can feel that it's not rusty. So it's not all just garbage. It's just selectively garbage. So this is going to be a two-sided repair, and we're going to walk you through it. And it starts with making a cut. I also rediscovered my Dremel tool, which really helps make precise cuts. So we're going to start pulling this piece off right now. All right, so in there, can't reach very well in there, but I'm going to blow it out real good and get in there as far as I can, and I'm going to use a rust converter in there before we seal it up. The other cool thing is this. Here's my template now for my new piece, and it's got a gentle scoop right there. So I'll use this for my template and as a model to scoop out my other piece. This right here, we're going to use the Captain Destructo tool, basically hamburger our way to get that out of there. But I am going to keep on using my Dremel to cut those places. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. We got some questionable base metal right there. Okay, well, I'm still going to clean that up. I might patch that before we go and do the rest of it, but yeah. Have I ever mentioned that I really like doing rust repair? All right, so I think I have to cut from about there. Well, I think I can get by with cutting that piece. That works a little better, doesn't it? All right, hot metal glue gun. All right, so that gives us something solid to weld to. And now we're gonna go with our little rust treatment job. Get that metal ready. So I'm using this stuff. It's the stuff that turns black when it dries. Comes from the Eastwood company. And by the way, there's a 10% coupon for anything you want to get from Eastwood in this link in the video. Go find it. Get 10%. I'm just going to gob this stuff up in here with the hopes that it runs down, finds gravity in all the places. The truth is, this cowling is not really that bad other than the windshield channel, and just the design of this channel. It just collects water moisture and saves it. Saves it up for a rainy day. And it takes a while, but over decades, it kills cars. So we're not done with this stuff. I'm gonna let that dry, and yeah, so we're good and slathered in there. I'm gonna let it dry while we make these other pieces. So that's gonna go to right about there. I know how to cut that. There-ish. Yeah. And I'm going to overcut, and then we're going to bend this sucker, and I'll trim it up. We are doing this area first. That gives me a guide along here to set my next piece too. Bammo-ish. Yeah, I'll fine tune that. Let's make a note. That's the base. It's all about the base. Base. So we're curving it around. Maybe I won't have to do a complex curve like I did with these other pieces, but we'll see. All right, so we're going to go over to our coat rack, sometimes known as shrinker stretcher. And yeah, okay. So one thing else that I've learned, because I've had to make a bunch of curved pieces, is that when I'm doing this, I kind of use the jaw itself. If you look over here, the jaw is about almost 3 fingers wide. So I kind of put my thumb here, I give it a punch, and that is sort of where I start again, give it another punch, And I use the spacing of the tool and it gets me even shrinking. All right, I'm gonna go check that. We've got a pretty good curve on there. Oh, it's kind of uneven right there. Okay, I'm gonna go check that. Ooh, yeah. We like that. We're gonna cut about there, about there. All right. The whittling part is really time consuming. But it's necessary also. All right, so our spacing is good, right? But as much as we've got our curve nailed this way, now we've got to stretch in here to match that curvature and that contour that way. And this machine, I think it's just the fact that it's easier to pull this 20 gauge apart. But I mean, this thing, it doesn't take very long at all to make a nice curve. Yep, we've matched our contour exactly. Okay, oh, except for that. So I'm going to tap that back up again, get that back into line. I'm also going to mark where I'm going to drill my holes for my rosettes. We're going to go right, well, we're going to go right there at the end, and right there, and right there, and right there, and right there. And you can really see that stuff working. It's gone from white to a bluish purple to finally black when it dries. Almost. Now, since the rust converter was almost done, what I'm doing now is called force flashing. It was almost completely black, but I didn't want to risk getting shaving stuck in the wet stuff, so I'm putting some heat on it with a heat gun and force flashing the solvent out of it. I'm also going to mask around the parts that I don't want overspray on. I'm going to use a bit of weld-through primer to give us the corrosion protection that we need on the back sides of these panels. Since we're never going to see this again, let's give it the respect it deserves. Throw it on the floor and get it dirty again after cleaning it. Oh no, wait, don't do that. And some more weld-through primer on the backside of the patch. So this is a thing I learned from, I believe the channel is called Goozy's Fab. He does really nice metal fab stuff. So now I know precisely where my rosettes are going to be. And now I don't have to burn through to get a really nice contact on the metal, right? So we've got bare metal and we're protected all the way around it as well. Now I've got a nice proud top line peak right there. Okay, so let's one more time with the hot metal glue gun, and I just got to do this real quick. Alrighty, quick change PPE, here we go. All right, so I'm looking at my piece right here, and it fits pretty good. I could weld this piece back in again. I'm not going to, and I'll show you why in a second. But what I'm looking for is that we got to have a little bit of a gap to weld to. But I don't want that much. I want about as much as is on that side, maybe a 1/16. That's where I'm comfortable. This is too much, so we're going to shape this down. Almost. Right about there. So I want to show you this. It looks good from the top. Oh no. Oh no. So I do have access to this underneath, and when all of this is done, I'm going to cavity wax the heck out of all of this stuff, and I'm going to spritz some more of the conversion coating in there first. Do the best we can. Have I mentioned before that nobody makes this piece? So, all right. Now we got to do a little bit of metal fab, some tracing and bending and moving. And I'm also breaking my other rule of don't ever use the hood of the car as a workbench. We're going to use the actual piece trace, except for there. And I'm going to oversize it so I can trim back a little bit. All right. Channel my inner kiwi. All right, so it curled up like a shrimp. So we got to get it unshrimped and kind of domed back the other way. But you got to get it straight first. Since I'm out of flat surfaces, we're going to use the floor bench. Kinda, sorta. So we've still got some trimming to do on this, obviously. But before I do that, I'm gonna do my shaping and kind of match this. So how do we do that, Kevin? On the piece we cut out, the valley is right in the middle, and it's even guiding the pen, right? That's my low spot, right in the middle. So I'm gonna set a guide right here. Right about like that. So that's where I need to focus bending it, like that. When we hit metal with a crowned hammer in the middle, like that, it peens right here, but it pushes this way and it creates tension. So I don't have a little roller tool. I've got a planishing hammer over there, but that can get out of control real quick. But what works for me a lot is just using the action of peening just to do a gentle swell. And I'm going to look for a higher crown hammer, but if I don't, I'm going to use that one. Hang on. All right, so what we're going to do is tap right down the middle. And the line also gives me a target. You can see it's starting to cup just a little bit. Not enough yet, but it is starting to cup a little bit. This back. We're getting closer to a shape, but we got to constantly correct and bring it back straight. And that's not a hard thing, really. It does have a bit of a complex shape to it. Goes the other way, though. All right, got a little more work to do. We're almost there. I want a little bit more action on the end, though. Hang on. There's a crowned hammer, right? Ooh. So I believe we've matched, pretty closely matched, the valley. So now what we can do, and I can pull that straight, I'm not worried about that. That falls into there pretty good, doesn't it? Yeah, that's gonna work. That's starting to fit pretty nice, folks. I'm gonna go over the grinder and just take a little bit off right in around there. All right, so I found my magnet. Okay, so that's a super nice natural fit. Heck yeah, man. All right, so we're ready to weld that in. We're going to prep the back side and get her done. All right, so I'm going to start fitting it. I can manipulate it with the magnet, but I'm going to fit it where it fits, blow a couple tacks in there, work my way this way. So in case you've been wondering, the time that we've got invested in this is more than what you see, obviously. It's been about 2 pretty full days with me and camera guy chasing each other around and getting shots, and then about another half a day with me just by myself with the camera on the tripod trying to figure stuff out. I find this process very, very rewarding, but also a little bit frustrating. And if you want me to tell the truth, I got real used to the Autometal Direct panels on the Camaro and having everything that I needed in a catalog right there, ready for the brown truck. But on this turd, no dice. Nothing is available. Literally nothing. It used to be, but it's not. I built one of these 35 years ago. I could get front fenders and a hood. Can't anymore. All right. What we have done is burned this in completely. It's still a little warm. And we've entered the land of 1,000 spot welds to tack it in place. That way we don't push a bunch of heat into it. This is still nice and flat. All that's repaired. And we've metal treated the stuff underneath it. So obviously the rest of the lower windshield frame, yeah, I've got a lot of work to do before I do that. I've got a lot of work to do to get that to this point, and then we got to grind it flush, and then we got to start in with body filler. So up here, obviously, we've got our stuff shaped, but none of the work is done on the back side. None of the rust converter has been brushed in the top side. But we're ready for that. We're ready for that step. So we're not going to make this a 9-hour-long video. I wanted to show you, in the first place, my thought process of, this is a very challenging rust repair. My thought process of approaching this, of how to retain the shape, and basically, I know I've retained the shape by going a little bit at a time. And this, kind of the same way, a little bit at a time. I've got some refining to do, but this gets me home. So there's not much I can't do with a bunch of body filler, but I want to get my metal work straight first. I want to get it right first, and that's the whole approach that I take when I'm doing something like this. And I've kind of said it before, even though the floor is partially gone and rusted in the frame rails, and there's other stuff on the bottom of this car that is questionable, this is kind of the last of the real rust repair that we've got to do. Well, except for the spare tire well. We'll figure that out. That might become a battery compartment. I don't know. But the floor is going to take care of itself because our 328i donor car is going to give up its floor to this car. We are literally going to graft the floor of a BMW into this, which accomplishes a whole bunch of goals that I've already explained. It's a transmission mount. It gives me the beautiful interior that's in that 328 coupe. And it allows me to have a center console, and everything replaces what's already rusty here that is actually unavailable. Nobody makes a floor kit for this car. So many birds, 1 or 2, 3 giant stones. Anyway, we're getting there. But once I get this done, then we can do things like, oh, cut the middle out of it. We'll take you along the ride with us on that one too. And yeah, and I talked to Ryan Shand a couple of times. He's going to come down here to cut a couple of cars into and kind of help me straw boss this project. So hope you like the little metal shaping tips. Yes, I've got fab equipment. No, you don't always need fab equipment. You can have a low crown hammer and a concrete floor, and you can dome and shape sheet metal. So Hope you liked this one. Let us know what your thoughts are in the comments, and please subscribe if you have not already. Hit the like button because it all helps us, and yeah, take advantage of some of the swag or maybe even the training courses if you want to do a deeper dive into paint, body, and polishing, and all the courses and classes that we have online at paintucationu.com. And in the meantime, thanks for watching, and thanks for being a part of this experiment, and we will see you next week.